from, not where I'm from. We all indigenous.
Today we're going to be talking about the first Americans. Often when people mention the first Americans, the first thing that comes to mind is the people currently on reservations. The point of this video is to show you how current Native Americans look nothing like the first Americans. Neither do they descend from the first Americans. Starting off, we're going to look at a scientific study that was posted on BBC News. Some of the earliest settlers of America may have come from Australia, Southern Asia, or the Pacific, new research suggests. And note that they're only saying that because of how they look, not because they have evidence of migration. Traditional theories held that the first Americans originated from Northern Asia. Dr. Sylvia Gonzalez conducted a study of ancient bones found in Mexico and found that they have very different characteristics to Native Americans. The results are being presented at the BA Festival of Science this week, and this happened sometime in 2004. Some of the ancient skulls she has looked at are more than 12,000 years old. These skulls have long and narrow heads that are very different from the short, broad skulls of today's Native Americans. One particular well-preserved skull of a long-headed female who has been dubbed Pinon Woman has been carbonated to 12,700 years ago. They appear more similar to Southern Asians, Australians, and populations of the South Pacific Rim than they do to Northern Asians, Dr. Gonzalez of Liverpool John Moores University told the British Association's annual meeting in Exeter. For those of you who don't know, the Pacific Rim or the South Pacific Rim is places like Papua New Guinea or Fiji, and we all know how those people look. We think there were several migration waves into the Americas at different times by different human groups. Emphasis on the fact that they thought this. They have no evidence that they migrated here. It could be possible that these people are Aborigines. She said there was very strong evidence that the first migration came from Australia via Japan and Polynesia and down the Pacific coast of America. Dr. Gonzalez said the research would be controversial. Native Americans cannot claim to have been the first people there, Dr. Gonzalez said. And we know this to be very true at this point in time. I'll skip forward a bit because there is something I want to touch on. A population of the long-headed individuals being studied by Dr. Gonzalez has survived into historic times, she claimed. This tribe, which lived on Baja California Peninsula, were called the Paracues, but they appear to have died out in the 18th century because of disease, so they say. Spanish missionaries reported that they were of a different racial type and had different customs to other Native Americans. So now we're going to take a look into this book to see what Spanish missionaries had to say about the Aborigines of California. I'm not sure if they were talking about that specific tribe that was mentioned in that study, but this is definitely about Aborigines of California. Though America possessed some dark brown men approaching to black, yet it has been almost universally believed that there were no Aboriginal blacks or Negroes found on this continent. But from considering the peculiar circumstances under which a black race was found in North America, I hold it more than probable that the common opinion is erroneous. Now, this is true. Most people do believe that there's no such thing as an Aboriginal black or so-called Negro found here in America. This is why me and other people are making the videos that we're making right now to prove to you that that is erroneous. That's not true. There are blacks or so-called Negroes that are Aboriginal to this continent, just like any other continent. I skipped forward a bit, but prior to this, the author was explaining how the so-called California Indians show no surprise at so-called Negroes, and also that there was a so-called Negro village in California. Torquemada undertakes to explain this remarkable circumstance by supposing that Negroes had been left there by some ship from the Philippine Islands. But as he does not quote the time when such an event had occurred, we presume it was a mere conjecture of his own to explain an anomaly of which he had been previously ignorant, and at first we were disposed to think the supposition plausible. But as it was found, on extending our researches, that the Negro character of the Indians on this coast has been distinctly remarked by various navigators even of the present day. We deem it impossible that any few individuals who were probably without women with them when left on this coast could have been able to communicate their peculiar complexion and features to entire nations even after a period of above 200 years. So he's saying it's impossible for these so-called Negroes to be here in so many numbers and in so little time, with probably without women. And that's only if they were being brought here as foreigners. Note that he said that their complexion and features were communicated to entire nations. The color of the Indians of the California missions, seen by La Perouse, very nearly approaches that of the Negroes, whose hair is not woolly. In another place, the color of these Indians, which is that of the Negroes. Langsdorff, who visited St. Francisco on the coast of California, confirms the observation of La Perouse, for he says the Indians there are of a very dark complexion, approaching to black. They have very large projecting lips and broad, flat, Negro-like noses. Indeed, many of their features, as well as their physiognomy and almost their color, bear a strong resemblance to the Negroes. Their hair, however, is long and straight. And we know that could be because of many things like bear grease or any other type of oil. As we cannot admit for a moment that these American blacks were ever driven by stress of weather across the Pacific Ocean to California, unless it be proved that they are the descendants of Negroes left by the Spaniards, it will follow of necessity that they have been settled in America from the earliest ages. In another part of America, if reliance can be placed upon a correctness of the relation, a race of blacks were seen at so early a period of our history that it seems impossible to avoid the conclusion that they were aboriginal. He's saying it's impossible to avoid this conclusion. Peter Martyr, in describing the journey of Balboa across the Isthmus of Darien, AD 1511, which isn't not too long after Christopher Columbus first came to America, right, gives the following history. There is a region not above 2 days' journey from Carriqua, in which they found only blackamoors, and those exceeding fierce and cruel. Only blackamoors. Put emphasis on that.